Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Dipali Evle, Assistant Professor ENTC Department, AISSMS, IIT. My today's topic of discussion is optical sources. First of all, we will define optical sources or light sources. A light source or optical source is defined as an optical component that produces light of the desired wavelength used in the fiber optic applications. The light produced is proportional to the electric current applied at its input. The light transmitter converts electrical signal into an optical signal. The example of light transmitter are LED and laser. So here we will study two types of optical sources, LED and laser. Now the selection of this optical source depends on system economic parameters and system performance requirements. LEDs are preferred for the low cost system and lasers are preferred for the high performance systems. Now, what are the requirements of light sources or optical sources? The emitted light must be monochromatic, that is of single frequency. The frequency or wavelength of the transmitted light should be such that it can efficiently propagate down the optical cable. Third characteristic or requirement is they should produce a sufficient power to ensure a low distortion in the transmitted light signal. Fourth requirement, they should produce a high intensity light output. This is necessary to transmit sufficient energy so as to overcome the losses in the transmission. Fifth requirement, they should be capable of being easily modulated. Usually a binary on-off modulation using PCM is used for better noise immunity. Sixth requirement is the light emitting devices should be small, compact and efficiently coupled to the optical fibers. This is to avoid the excessive coupling losses. And the last requirement is they should be inexpensive. So, light emitting diode and semiconductor lasers are extensively used light sources. So, first of all we will study light emitting diode. We will study the principle of light emitting diode. Basically, this is a semiconductor junction diode which emits light when current is passed through it in the forward direction. It works on the principle of spontaneous emission, that is, the light is emitted as a result of recombination of electron and holes. Here, LED is represented as the PN junction diode with two terminals, anode and cathode. The anode of the LED is a p-type semiconductor which contains large number of holes, and the cathode of the n-type semiconductor material which consists of large number of electrons. When no voltage is applied across LED, a depletion region separates the two sides. Now, this is a region where no free charge exists due to the recombined holes and electrons. A barrier potential will exist across the depletion region. LED are always operated in the forward bias state, with its anode positive with respect to cathode. A current limiting resistor, sometimes R, is connected in series with the LED. When the LED is forward biased, to overcome the barrier potential, the depletion region will disappear and the holes and electrons will move freely from one side to the another side. Due to this free movement, there is recombination of electron and holes, and when an electron and hole meet and recombine, they emit one photon of light. The intensity of light thus depends on the number of recombination, which in turn depends upon the forward bias current of the LED. The frequency of the emitted light depends upon the energy gap of the material used to make the junction. So that's why I have represented here the materials used for LED and their respective wavelength. So for AlGa, En, P, the wavelength will be 630 to 680. For gallium, indium, phosphorus, the wavelength will be 670. So here I have given the table for the wavelength of light and their particular material. This is the spectrum of typical LED. The frequency spectrum of LED is centered about a wavelength of 0.65 micrometer and has a spectral width of about 0.02 micrometer. These are the results of the gallium arsenide phosphorus diode. Before discussing types of the LEDs, I will discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of LEDs. LEDs are of small size and lightweight. First of all, advantages of LED. So LEDs are of small size and lightweight. They can produce light at different wavelengths. They have larger life as compared to the lamps. As the light emitted by LED is proportional to the amount of current flowing through it, we can control the light output by controlling the current, and they can operate at high frequencies. Now, disadvantages of LEDs. Output power is affected by change in temperature. Overcurrent and reverse voltage damage it easily. Large power is required for their operation, and light produced by LED is not coherent and monochrome. Now, types of LED. There are two types of LEDs, homojunction LEDs and heterojunction LEDs. So first of all, we will define homojunction LEDs. The PN junction LEDs made from two different mixtures of same type of atoms is called homojunction LEDs. The homojunction and LED structure are the simplest one. Now the material used for this type of homojunction LEDs is silicon doped gallium arsenide. Then heterojunction LEDs. In order to make the heterojunction LEDs, the semiconductor materials used for the P and N side are of two different types. Homojunction LED interface that occurs between the layers of similar semiconductor material. They have equal band gaps but different doping, that is interface between N type and P type. Heterojunction LEDs interface that occurs between two layers or regions of dissimilar crystalline semiconductor. They have unequal band gaps used in lasers and solar cells. This is the ideal characteristics of LED. So this is the output power versus forward current characteristics, which is a linear characteristic. The output power increases linear with increase in forward current over a wide range. Now we will discuss about the second type of light source called laser. The term laser stands for the light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Here the word light stands for electromagnetic radiation. Now we will discuss some of the properties of laser. So laser is highly monochromatic light. The laser light is monochromatic in nature, that means this light is having a single color or single wavelength. Laser light is coherent in nature, that means all the wavelengths contained in laser light are in the same phase. A laser beam does not spread much, that means they are highly directional. Laser light can be sharply focused. We can focus the laser light to form a very small spot. Now we will this is nothing but the laser ideal characteristics. So now before going for this ideal characteristics, now we will see some basic steps to form the laser beam, so that we will be able to understand spontaneous emission region and stimulated emission region shown in the ideal characteristics of the laser. So basically there are three basic processes required to generate lasers. First is absorption, second is spontaneous emission, and third is stimulated emission. So this diagram shows you absorption, spontaneous emission and stimulated emission. Absorption. Under normal condition, the tendency of electrons in the case of semiconductor material is to stay at the lower energy level, and this lower energy level is called as ground level, represented by E1 in the diagram. If the photon of certain energy is incident on this electron, then the electron absorbs this energy. So the total energy contained by that electron increases, and for the electron shifts to the higher energy level shown by E2 in the diagram. Actually, the number of electrons absorbing the incident photons and traveling towards the higher energy level are more, but for simplicity we have shown here only one electron. So the transfer of the electron is purely because of increase in its energy. Here it is important to understand that the incident photon should provide sufficient energy to the electron to cause the movement of the electron from E1 to E2, and the sufficient energy in this case is the energy level difference between E1 and E2. That means the incident photon should provide energy which is at least equal to E2 minus E1. So, but if this energy is not provided by the incident photon, then the electron will absorb the energy, but it will not reach to the energy level E2. And in this case, the electron gets shifted and occupies an intermediate step between E1 and E2. This intermediate energy level is called as metastable state. And after some time, the electron falls back to the original energy level, that it is ground level. Now, spontaneous emission. After the expulsion process, the electron or atoms are present at the higher energy level. That means they possess the excited state. Now, if no incident light are incident externally, then these electrons stay in that state for a very short time. But after some time period, the electrons fall back to their original state, that is lower energy level. Consider one electron present at higher energy level. When this electron falls back to the lower energy level, it will emit energy which was absorbed by it during the absorption process. Thus, it gives out the radiation. The energy emitted during this transition of electron from ET to E1 is simply the energy level difference between the two energy levels, that is E2 minus E1. These electrons falling back to the ground state may directly come to the ground state, or it may follow 2 to 3 steps to reach to the ground state. The spontaneous emission process is shown in diagram B. This process is known as the spontaneous emission because the event is not initiated by an outside influence. The light from the ordinary light bulb is generated in this way. And the second process is stimulated emission, in which the atom in the excited state E2, but this time radiation with a frequency f, that is hf is equal to E2 minus E1 is present. A photon of energy hf can stimulate the atom to move its to ground state. During this process, the atom emits an additional photon whose energy is also equal to hf. That means two photons are emitted simultaneously. The process is called as stimulated emission because the process is triggered by some external photon. The emitted photon is identical to the stimulated photon in every aspect. Stimulated emission is the important process for generation of lasers. To produce laser light, more photons should be emitted than absorbed. In the stimulated emission, light amplification takes place because we get two photons at the output when only one photon strikes the excited electron. So this is about the step of the atom before and after the transition in case of laser. These are the comparison points between the LED and the laser. There are some specifications depending on which we are comparing laser and LED. Output power in LED linearly proportional to drive current, in laser proportional to current above threshold. Current in LED drive current is 50 to 100 milliampere, and in laser threshold current is 5 to 40 milliampere. Coupled power in LED is moderate and it is high for laser. Speed of LED is slower as compared to laser. Output pattern of LED is higher as compared to laser. Filter type, in LED we are using multi-mode only, in laser we are using single mode and multi-mode. fiber used in LED is multi-mode, fiber used in laser is single mode and multi-mode. Ease of use, LED is easier to use, laser is difficult to use. Spectral width of laser is narrower as compared to LED. Modulation bandwidth of LED is moderate, whereas it is high for laser. 10 to 20% of efficiency is there for laser in LED and 30 to 70% for laser. Cost of LED is low, but cost of laser is moderate to high. Thank you.